If you've just become a tech lead, your first 6 months will decide whether your team trusts you or if the role breaks you. Very few tech leads choose the role, usually they are just thrown into it, and if you just wing it, you risk burning out, losing your team's trust, and maybe even hating your job. And I will show you 5 crucial skills and give you a month-by-month quest line for your first 6 months that you can follow so that you can lead with confidence and actually have some control. I've been a tech lead for more than 15 years and I will show you how to start better than I did. If you make a big decision, would your team back you up because they actually trust you and not just because you have a title? I believe that this is the first thing you have to ask yourself. Because programmers are usually people with strong personalities, so usually there is at least one senior who practically disagrees with anything a new tech lead says, not just because the decision is bad, but just because they might feel that their vote should be more valued maybe. And even if everybody likes you from the start, imagine what would happen if you get into an argument with some of your colleagues. Are you confident that both of you will just get over it eventually and you will still keep raiding together, working professionally? And the mistake many tech leads think is that relationships will just happen if you are long enough in the same company with similar people. But it won't. You have to grind for it. You have to build relations intentionally. But how do you do that? So this is the first skill. As a managing consultant, I'm regularly dropped into new teams in completely new companies where I practically don't know anyone. And I'm expected to deliver results very quickly. So the first thing I do is try to connect with both colleagues, developers, but also project managers, stakeholders, financial people, to try to build some relationships with them. That is very important, to know their expectations, their motivations, what they enjoy. And the most tool you have here is a 20-minute one-on-one meeting which you can schedule, and not just with your team again, but also with your stakeholders, leaders, or mentors. So you should use this to build relations and trust. The easiest way to do that is focus maybe on the open questions about challenges, goals, well-being. Just ask them and be curious. Obviously, do not make this awkward, and you don't want to use this as status updates, but you can use open questions like, what's been your biggest challenge in this company or in this project, or what part of the quest are you enjoying the most? A second tool is pretty obvious, and as Dale Carnegie writes in this good old classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he says that you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can make in 2 years by trying to get other people to be interested in you. So just be genuinely interested in what people are doing. You have to have focus a little bit more on people now in your role, so you could ask them questions about their interests, about football or personal projects, home, travel, pets, weather, whatever people might like to do in their free time. To use your personal interests to build relations with people within the reason, of course, they are people after all. Thirdly, this one is very effective in general, but especially towards the difficult colleagues I mentioned. You should acknowledge their expertise of those experts, but also set expectations that you and your team want to learn from them. If there is somebody who has a strong opinion, they should be able to communicate it and also to teach you what they know. So open the scene for experienced people who have something to say and watch what they are doing and ask them for advice. As Stephen Covey talks in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, his habit number 5 says that seek first to understand, then to be understood. So try to understand what people are saying. Ask them for the best way of doing things. Be curious, because then once you understand where they're coming from, you can explain and be understood in your decision that might be different than what they were imagining. So even if you don't have difficult colleagues, you actually want your team to become a lifelong learners, so make sure there is a good sharing culture in your team. And I've recently completed the Dale Carnegie's 6-month problem on building relationships. That's actually something that I've been, wishing since my early days of programming 20 years ago probably. But from the entire course of 6 months, my biggest takeaway is that exactly what I mentioned before, you have to be intentional in building relationships. It will not happen on its own. You could work in a company for 10 years and still don't know anybody or still don't know everybody, and maybe you don't even know what they do in their free time. But I hear you say, I don't get measured on how many likes I have in a company. And you are 100% correct. I found this quote on the internet. Says that the best tech leads don't do the work, they multiply it. But how in the world can you multiply anything if when you open your calendar or your inbox in the morning, you are already behind schedule? Work from yesterday got piled up and your inbox is just counting 99 unreads. I guess it was easier when you were just a developer. Somebody would just give you a ticket and you would go through them. Now it's a bit different. And the easiest place to start here is splitting your day into specific time chunks with a dedicated purpose. For example, before lunch you could work on coding and reports, so on producing something, and after lunch you would have meetings with other NPCs and other stakeholders. You can also go in details and maybe block 1 hour for code reviews, 2 hours for administration and so on. I personally even block the time for lunch with my imaginary friends. But even if you do not stick to that plan, that's not important. You are doing two things here. First, you are forcing yourself to minimize distractions, so you are intentional about what you will work on. And second, you will see and realize how much time realistically will take to do everything. And this is known as time blocking, and it will grow your planning muscles, which are important for this role. But I also promise you that when you block your calendar, you will still not have time for everything, and there will probably still be 99 unread messages you need to address yourself. Or do. And that's where trick number 2 comes in this skill branch, which is a bit tough because it forces you to let go. A lot of first-time tech leads think that they still have to do everything they used to do and all the additional leadership tasks on top of that. But here you would use those relationships that you have hopefully built with your team so far and delegate them the right tasks. It is very important to understand and to know that you are not delegating to other people just so that you could free up your calendar. You do it to play on your team's strength, but also growth areas. If you give the right task to the right person, that is. So don't think of delegation just as you telling others what to do, but rather as a win-win scenario where on one side you are managing effectively, you are utilizing your team, and on the other, your team is gaining more experience. However, even if you have a team of 40 people, do you think you could delegate everything and get it all done one day? Many new tech leads believe that every task has to be done and that every person is equally important in the company. And one day you will have to choose sides and make the hard decision. This is very difficult in the beginning, that's why I will show you the timeline when you should start doing that, because you are still building relationships with people around you and you want them to like you, so naturally you want to do things for them so that they would like you, so that you would have a good relationship. However, if you're not careful, you will get pulled into too many directions. Boss has a great idea on one side, marketing has a last-minute change on the other side, and then there is a technical problems and limitations on the third side that you need to address. So you will have to tell no to someone at one point. But the trick here is not just saying no with a lot of nice words and a lot of smileys and being politically correct. It's actually saying no because you believe that is the best thing for that person who asked you and the company you both work in. So you could say something like, if we do this now, we will miss the deadline for ABC. Which one would you like to do first? So you're not just dissing people and their ideas, you are showing them that you truly have a focus on what's really important for everybody, for the company, right? So you need to learn when, but also how to say no, how to stand behind your decision, which is in essence, I believe, the skill to prioritize as well. And how there are obviously many other soft skills that you would do here in the skill tree, but these 3 will get you quite far in the beginning. But what do you do when production is on fire and you actually have to do some actual job? I know I said that your input is measured through others, but there are still technical expectations from tech lead roles. It is there in the title, tech lead or technical leader. But if you're reducing coding, what are you going to do then? And one of the most critical hard skills here you will rely on in your career is knowing how all the pieces of your system fit together. Where is your data stored and how your data flows through the system, And you can test this easily. If you would go now to the CEO's office, would you be able to explain with 5 simple boxes and a mini-map how your team and how your processes work, how your system handles spike in traffic, and what is your development process like? So you need to be able to talk technical architecture and technical decisions on multiple levels. And this is maybe the most important hard skill of all. So how to learn this? Firstly, if you're new to the team, shadow the team members working on different parts of the systems. Maybe when you get control over your calendar, try to do a small quest yourself just to feel the terrain. So that hands-on exposure on doing something will help you understand how your maybe architectural decisions actually play out in practice within the people who are implementing it. And the more you understand the production line, the better decisions you will make, obviously. So make sure you gather intel on how work is actually done in your team from multiple perspectives. Second, every system has one component that is basically held by a duct tape. And trust me, one day you will reach out and you will be holding the duct tape. Think about it like this. Your CEO might need to do some campaign today, but he doesn't quite have all the money right away on the account. So what will he do? He will go to the bank, loan the money to do some investing today, and then when that investment pays off, that risks, he will basically pay down the loan to the bank later. Except that you won't borrow money, I really hope so, you will borrow time. And that is what technical debt is. You will cut corners now to ship faster, to release something really important now. However, that time you have borrowed and saved must be paid back later with interest. And the problem is that there is no reminder from the back. You don't get an invoice reminding you that you should now pay this off. So it's very easy to forget that you even borrowed it, especially when other stakeholders start to pressing you into delivering more. Stripe shared that their developers spend around 30% of their time dealing with technical debt. Sure, they might be working with WordPress, I don't know, but anyway, that's a lot. So use technical debt strategically and not accidentally, but also most importantly, understand how it works, how to use it, and how to explain to your boss when the time comes to pay it back. I have another video on technical debt that you can watch and maybe even send to your stakeholders. Because that's the only way to clean up the mess by understanding and explaining what the technical debt is and what are consequences if it's not paid. Which leads us to the third point, which is that people come and leave companies. That happens all the time. So if somebody leaves, you either need to first delegate his tasks to somebody else, or you have to do them yourself. But at the same time, when a new person joins your team, somebody needs to show them around your system. So you need at least a description of which stack you have, which libraries you use, how does information flow, how do you work, how is deployment done, and so on. So back to those CEO boxes, you will need to document your architecture somehow. You will need at least, a few sequence or flow diagrams, and maybe a wiki page, because a single diagram can save you hours or days when you're onboarding somebody. Because these drawings are like your world map in a game. You will make it easy for you to remember details, but also it will be easier to lead others. And by now you should have unlocked the relationship skills and you will have your soft and hard skills unlocked. Now you need to understand what exactly is the point of what we are doing. Do you know really what your company is really all about? I can tell you that the point of your company is not for your developers to write code, and it's definitely not about deployment pipelines or AI integration or things like that. Your company solves a problem. That's it, and that's your main quest. All other things are optional. But do you actually know what the problem your companies solve? And most importantly, do you know how the code you write relates to the problem your users have? And if you don't know how your code affects the company goals, you risk building the wrong thing perfectly. So you're now working with a bit bigger picture than your code. So you must understand business to a certain level. And there is nothing worse than a good developer who writes great code that doesn't matter. So what do you do first? The easiest is to observe the company from the customer's point of view. So start shadowing your sales team and marketing and customer support. Your company is probably selling something, so there are people holding presentations. and sit on a customer demo where they show a feature that your team was developing and see how people react to it. If you're lucky, you will also feel the embarrassment when something doesn't work as expected. And that teaches prioritization very, very quickly. For me personally, a support team is a gold mine because they are closest to the pains that customers have. Usually people who call support are not quite happy or having some problems, and you actually want to feel their pain. Because guess who is solving their pain with code? It's you. You are the one who can fix it. So know your customer and know your business. And the second skill in our business branch is knowing if your company is doing well actually. But how do you know if it's doing well or not? Well, how does your CEO knows? Every company measures success differently. Some track money in, some use KPIs, others use, number of customers. It depends on the strategy, what your goal is for your company, and that is what you need to know and understand how it's measured, and also know how those numbers mean to the code you write. This is very important because it also solves the previous point on saying no to people, because you can now put every decision and every task you get and see if it's important. You just check how does this task relates to the company goals. So learn how your company measures goals and success. And by now you have 4 most important skills that you need to master or implement. But in which order should you do them, and when are you ready for the next one? When should you actually say no to somebody, and maybe when should you delegate? I'm glad that you asked, and here is my opinion. We talked about planning your week in your calendar. Now we need to plan a bit longer, for maybe 6 months or maybe a few years ahead. But here we will just cover the basics, and this is where a structured plan helps you, and I have all this written down in a free PDF in the description so you can download and easily follow what I'm talking about. Like in the video game, you will struggle if you do not know what are the game elements available to you. So explore the map and talk to every NPC you have. Build relationships, ask dumb questions, have a lot of one-on-ones, try to understand challenges and get to know people, their aspirations. So meet often with your manager in the beginning to clarify their expectations. If you have some coding responsibilities for now, you can still do them, but prepare for reduction. So the first month you should be focusing on observing and learning. If possible, try not to make big decisions in this period. By the second month, people will naturally expect something from you, so you should start reducing your coding responsibilities and then start delegating your tasks to people. If you have to do code, choose some side quests maybe instead of the main one. Focus on smaller tasks, smaller wins, and make sure that others are not waiting for you, because your time will be eaten by many other things and then you will just stress again. So aim for 30 to 50% of your old tasks to be delegated. And it's here where you will become more of a change catalyst and adjusting the way things are done in the company until now. So just be aware that people do not always like change, but that is okay. The third month is when you start thinking a bit bigger. You're maybe introducing a better planning process, better testing, or maybe doing some refactory, upgrading libraries, cleaning some technical debt. You are now less about quick improvements, and you are gradually thinking more about laying the groundwork for a long-term impact. At this point, you should know the dynamics of your team, understand the organizational details, and have a clear sense of how priorities align with the business goals. At the same time, you will be able to identify biggest problems of your team and try to gradually solve them, whether that's a process or is some technical debt or some technical problem that needs to be solved. The biggest trick in my book is balancing ambition with reality. Even the long-term projects should feel like you can achieve them and not be something gigantic that's never going to be done. So now it's time to start pushing some more complex initiatives. In months 4 to 6, your goal is to drive execution now and begin thinking long-term. Some of the activities you might do are align your team with the company goals and OKR, if it's not already there, or maybe you would write a plan on how you would attack a technical debt to prevent it from bubbling and exploding. You will advocate for some non-functional work that will help, like scalability or test coverage, things like that. But also very important, you start managing up, meaning you start explaining to your boss why the things should be done the way you want them. So you will need to master a metrics and status report, because those are, in my opinion, the easiest way to convey management that some things need to be changed. And the final one, and it's most important of them all, you should do a self-retrospective frequently where you would gather feedback on your leadership and plan what you will improve. And then you will work on those plans on improving yourself continuously. So all these skill trees, you will either unlock something new or you will improve some of those. So in these months you deliver, you report improvements and lead strategically. And with the right plan, the first 6 months are less stress and more just a list of measure steps that I again have in this PDF that you can download in the description. And I will see you in your next quest. Bye!